Hello, welcome to another episode of Field of Screams podcast. Today we'll be talking about the 2019 movie called Haunt. You might see this movie on Amazon Prime Video or maybe Shudder. It has a spooky little mask on it. And to be honest, I scrolled past it quite a few times thinking it was just going to be a cookie cutter slasher taking place inside a haunted house, which it does take place inside a haunted house. But I was pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed this movie. This movie starts off with a girl named Harper and a group of three other friends. They go out and they go to a club and they end up meeting this guy. One of them's name is Nathan, I believe. Nathan and his friend Evan. But before I get to there, it did kind of crack me up in the very beginning. Harper sitting inside her house with her friend. And it's kind of revealed that she has an abusive boyfriend, and this abusive boyfriend throws an entire pumpkin at her front door. There's stages of being mad, but when you take an entire pumpkin and chuck it at a house, you got some problems, dude. But the abusive boyfriend spends half the movie just kind of, I think he's stalking her. There's times I'm confused, because sometimes I think it's someone from this haunted house. And then there's other times I'm like, I think that was the abusive boyfriend, but we'll come back to that. But yeah, Harper's at this club, she meets Nathan, they hit it off, they're flirting. And when we meet Nathan's friend Evan, he literally just walks in and goes, this is bullshit. And he smacks a drink and it completely dumps all over Harper. It looks like Harper It looks like she walked underneath Niagara Falls by the time the drink gets done splashing on her. When Nathan, walks up to Evan and, pushes him once, it was like, come on, dude, knock it off. Because, Nathan's the good guy. So then for those two moments, I thought maybe I was watching a movie, that was so silly I'd have a good time with that. But once this movie kind of gets started, it's a pretty good time. The group ends up, the six of them, they end up going to this extreme haunted house, which literally no one is there. There's no cars around. They park, and there's a dude with a mask on, and he has them sign these liability sheets and gives them a key, which I think this type of movie, which there's other movies like it, but I like to think they're inspired by the McKamey Manor. The extreme haunted houses where they can push you, tackle you, pull your hair, dump stuff on you. People who sign up for that stuff are just crazy. I would never. I love haunted houses. I love Halloween. I'll go to any haunted house, but just, when they start force feeding you rotten eggs, that's not fun. When they're waterboarding you, that's not fun. I'm not doing those type of haunted houses, but, they're like, oh, this one seems chill enough, and so they go into it, thinking they're in the typical extreme haunted house, but all of a sudden bad stuff starts happening. There's literally a scene whenever they're in the haunted house, they think it's all fake, and this dude, throws down a girl's body, and she's, still somewhat alive, and she's like, please help me. And he pulls out this, gigantic iron branding thing and, gets her in the face with it. And they're all like, oh, that was scary. Smoke kind of flies up, so they can't really see the aftermath of him doing that to the girl's face. But, I don't know, in my head, I was like, wouldn't she still be screaming, though? And wouldn't they eventually find out it's real? But, whatever. But once they find out it's legit, literally one of the friends, she gets separated, and there's a cage where they can see through, and they pull out the girl's body, and they're like, whoa, what are you doing with her, man? Come on, this is getting a little extreme. And he stabs her right through the temple. And then all of them are just kind of like, oh my god, we gotta get out of here. There's another scene where one of the workers in this haunted house, he kind of gets mixed up with the group. And they're like, hey, one of our friends is hurt. And this dude, he's being sketchy as can be. He's like, hurt? Well, safety's our number one concern. And he's just following them around. He's like, I'll help you guide you guys out. You might as well go to the end of the haunted house. It'd be quicker than backtracking all the way through. And he's trying to play it off there's just one rogue worker. And eventually one of the guys who's had a smart moment, he goes, "Why don't you just take off your mask?" And the guy's like, "Whoa, let's not jump to conclusions." And then they just kind of drop that question. I'm like, no, keep pestering him. Like, make him take off that mask. Like, he's being super secretive. It ain't going to end well, and it doesn't, because that guy's a bad dude. Eventually, these workers, they do start taking off their mask in these movies, and man, oh man, like, they are some gnarly looking dudes in this film. Their faces are kind of scarier than the masks themselves. The guy who was like amongst the group, he goes up to one of the guys. He's like, "Did you want me to take off my mask?" And the guy's like, what?" Because he's like all alone at this point. And he goes, my face. You wanted to see my face, right? And he's like, no, man, I just kind of want to get out of here. And he goes, "Oh, but you wanted me to take off my mask." And it sets up a very creepy moment. This film does an awesome job just setting up tension, creepy atmosphere. It does a good job of kind of subverting your expectations. It has a lot of smart moments in it. When this film's going, literally, they take all of their cell phones and they like destroy them. But there's one person trying to get a hold of Harper, and that is Harper's abusive boyfriend. And I think he had like a tracker on her phone. But I was just sitting there, I'm like, man, the abusive boyfriend's going to end up being the savior, isn't he? Because like her friends are dying left and right. And a lot of the workers haven't quite died yet. Like a few of them have, but not enough to make you feel comfortable. So you're kind of still on the edge, like, oh, how's this going to go? So I was like, man, this movie's going to do something rare, and the abusive boyfriend's going to like show up, and he's going to have a moment of redemption. And like he travels all that way, and then they end up just killing him right on the spot. And I'm like, oh my god, like maybe they're not going to make it. I don't know. Now these workers, they like to mangle people's faces and their own faces, and that's why like they're pretty creepy. And there's a line they keep saying, like they keep going up to Harper and they're like, "How about we take off that mask?" Talking about her face. And like some of the people, they like take hammers like to people's mouths and like completely just rip open their face. It is some nasty gore. But man, it's fun. It's fun in a sadistic way. This movie does love dealing with pain. There's literally a room that Harper goes into that's like dedicated to like if the survivor is like walking around carelessly, they literally just walk into a knife. There's like knives sticking out of the walls, the ceiling. Which at one point I was like, why doesn't Harper just grab one of the machetes and cut the string that's hanging it up? That way she has a weapon. But she doesn't do that. But there's also nails like sticking out of the floor, and man, like there are some scenes of people falling on nails, stepping on nails, really painful. Oh, yeah. Another cool scene is Harper's like nearing the end of like this entire haunted house, and she's got to like find the key, and again it does like these creepy things to where like she's looking for the code, she rips open like a doll's head, and then it said like there's something hiding under the bed, and I was like, oh no, like which one of them's under the bed? But it wasn't. Like it was like the secret code. No, it was the key, that's what it was. She gets the key and she ends up putting it in the door. And when she puts it in the door, it plays a little musical Pop Goes the Weasel. And whenever it gets to the pop part, there's a rifle hooked up via wire. And it shoots through the door and shoots Harper in the shoulder. I didn't see it coming. I thought some dude was just going to like go through the door, but I wasn't expecting a gun blast. Again, the movie does a good job subverting expectations. But one part, after she gets shot, she's like crawling, and the gun keeps going off because it's like every like 10 seconds the gun will shoot again. And like one of the guys like goes in there and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get Harper." And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take off your mask." And then the gun goes off and like shoots him right in the face. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, she's scot free. Like just keep crawling." But instead, like, Harper gets up, like, while the gun's winding up, and she starts, like, running towards the gun, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, keep crawling. And luckily, like, the gun drew on a blank to where Harper doesn't get shot. But regardless, that was like the one dumb decision that a character makes throughout this movie. You could say letting the one dude who worked at this house hang around the group, that might have been dumb, but what choice did they have at that moment? But yeah, Harper running towards the gun, that was one where I was like, Harper, you're being dumb. Come on. You should have crawled. But, I don't know, she made it, so I guess it doesn't matter. The end of this movie, I really love the end. How it goes is Harper gets away. She goes to the hospital. She dreams about her mom, and it does do a nice little tie back. I think her dad was abusive, and she witnessed that as a kid. There's a little scene that kind of brings that back. That was cool. But yeah, Harper gets all healed up. But the head honcho running this little sick house, of course he has their address, because of the liability sheets. So he pulls up to her house, and you're kind of like, oh no. But as this dude walks into the house, you realize that she booby-trapped it. She Macaulay Culkin'd it. It's like Home Alone. But the dude gets caught in the trap, and he's like, raw! And Harper just kind of walks up, and she's like, now let's take off that mask, and shoots him. Fantastic way to end the movie. Nice little tie back. Nice little revenge. I liked it. So again, overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was pretty solid for what it set out to be. There's a movie called Hellfest that kind of came out around the same time, I believe. And I watched that a little bit before I watched this. And Hellfest got a theater release, whereas this went straight to streaming. And I thought this was way better than Hellfest. I thought Hellfest was okay. I thought it was kind of the cookie cutter movie that, I thought Haunt was going to be. But Haunt, it was a lower budget film, and it was a far better film, in my opinion. If you're looking for a nice little Halloween film to watch, set the mood, remind you of the good old days where, you went through haunted houses and you couldn't quite make it out to one on a day, this is the perfect movie for you. It's very good. If you like slashers, that's what it is. And again, it has good villains. It's a smart movie. And it does some things you don't expect it's going to do. So, yeah, I highly recommend this movie. And yeah, I had a good time watching it. If you enjoy this movie, and if you've seen it before, comment down below. Tell me what you think about the movie Haunt. If you didn't like it, tell me why. If you thought Hellfest was better, tell me I'm an idiot. Just kidding. Don't be that mean. But you can let me know though. Feel free to comment away. Give this a like, because that helps out the channel, gets it out to other people. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Guys, it was fun. I hope you enjoyed listening, and until next time.